tú eres muy malo, roto el pato de vestuario. La interpretación siempre negativa, nunca positiva.
Hello, welcome to Siempre Positivo. After a disappointing Clasico over Barcelona ended in a 2-1 defeat, which allowed Real Madrid to move 5 points clear at the top of La Liga. I'm Sam Marsden, joined by Rik Sharma and Toni Juan Marti. Rik, how are you?
Yeah, right. Back from the Clasico and, ready to discuss it.
Toni, Rik, back from the Clasico, was in Madrid for the game. Where did you watch it?
Good afternoon. I watched it at home, relaxedly. And I prefer always to watch these games at home. Yes.
Because you can't trust yourself out in public when certain things go certain ways.
No. It's not like this. It's not like 15 years ago. It's just that I don't like to watch it with people that maybe are talking during the game, or I like to be focused, you know.
And also, at home, you guarantee yourself the best seat in the house. When you go out sometimes, it's like, I hate when you go out and you get a seat and like, you're not in a good position to see a TV, or TV's too small, it's too far away. I don't know, I hate it. I don't like that.
Yeah. Also this, yes.
How do you watch a game, Toni, when it's a big game like this? Are you shouting at the TV? Are you on your phone? Do you put your phone away, or are you messaging people about the game while it's happening? What's your ritual for watching these big games?
No. I mean, I'm not texting everybody with the phone, but at the same time, maybe one message if there is some concrete action. But no, I like to analyze it sportively, you know, like kind of watching the as a not as a former player maybe, but just something like technically analyzing the game, you know.
Tony can't put his phone away; it's stuck in his hand. It's just stuck in the hand from his years of sport.
Also this, yes. Yeah.
Well, that was going to be my first question to you, Toni. To design your own podcast, whether we start with the big talking point that seems to be sort of dominating the post match and Lamine Yamal's comments in the week, and Dani Carvajal and Vinicius going for him at full time, or whether we start with the sporting aspect of the game of a Clasico where Barca were deservedly beaten. Where shall we start?
I would start with the sportive issues always. Yes.
Okay, so let's rewind. Not quite 24 hours, Sunday afternoon in the Madrid sunshine, Barcelona beaten 2-1. Madrid probably deserved to win by more. They took the lead through Kylian Mbappe, a fine through ball from Jude Bellingham, by which point they'd already had a penalty decision correctly overturned when Vinicius had kicked into the back of Lamine Yamal's leg, and a goal ruled out for the narrowest of offsides. A brilliant finish from Mbappe, but a slither of his foot was just offside when the lines were drawn with his and Pau Cubarsi's foot. But Madrid did eventually take the lead, that Mbappe goal, and it looked like they would add more to their tally. But Barca responded somewhat against the run of play. They had plenty of possession, but it was quite sterile. But in one of the chances they created, it came from an Arda Güler mistake. The ball found its way to Marcus Rashford, and he pulled it back for Fermin Lopez to score his fourth goal in 2 games. But parity didn't last long. Madrid were level. Madrid were ahead again before the break. More sloppy defending from Barcelona. Vinicius' deep cross headed back across goal by Eder Militao, who beat Balde in the air. There was an incident between Dean Howson and Pau Cubarsi. It looked like Howson elbowed Cubarsi, but it went over both of them. I don't know whether Cubarsi would have got it without that sort of incident. And Jude Bellingham had a tap in to make it 2-1, and that is surprisingly how it stayed, because there were chances for both teams. I've not mentioned one before. There was one for Ferran Torres earlier in the first half, which he sort of really poorly just made far too easy for Thibaut Courtois. There were chances in the second half for Fermin Lopez, but he shot instead of passing when perhaps he would have been better served to pass. There was one late-ish chance for Jules Koundé ball coming in when he couldn't quite get it under control. He might have been better off heading it. But Madrid also had lots of chances. They had 2 other disallowed goals, one in the first half from Mbappe. I've forgotten who had the one ruled off in the second half. Was it Bellingham as well? One offside for Brahim Diaz. There was a penalty save from Wojciech Chesney from Mbappe after Eric Garcia had handled a Jude Bellingham cross on an almost a ricochet. And there were other chances for Madrid, some great defending. And Araujo, who'd come off the bench at one point, a Rodrigo late free kick tipped just wide. And that's how it ended, 2-1 to Real Madrid. In a game which I we were just talking about this before the pod, Rick. It doesn't feel like, despite the fact that Madrid were clearly superior to Barca, it didn't feel like they had to be at their very, very best or incredible to win this game and end their run of 4 straight Clasico defeats. Xabi Alonso winning his first Clasico as coach, a big win for him, of course, having lost to PSG and Atletico Madrid, and inflicting Hansi Flick's first Clasico defeat on him. Flick, of course, not on the touchline, serving a 1-match suspension, sat behind us in a box in the media area.
Yeah. Do you know what? I said to my colleague Arno during the game, I said, are we watching 2 shit teams here? Excuse the language. Because I think Real Madrid were quite bad and Barca were very bad. And that was what we were watching yesterday. I mean, the game itself was interesting to watch. But I think in a footballing sense, very, very poor from both teams. Obviously, Madrid, less poor than Barca. And that's why they won the game with some... I think Bellingham had a good game. Great assist for Mbappe and... a goal himself. Mbappe, like you said, his finish for the offside goal was great, and then his finish for the goal which counted, also very good. Szczesny had a good game, and beyond that, there wasn't many players who really impressed yesterday.
Totally agree. I think it's the summary. A very bad team against a bad team. If I was the coach of Paris Saint-Germain or Bayern München, I would be eating popcorn, because they need to improve a lot. If both of them, they want to become not favorite, just candidate to battle to fight for the Champions League. So the level was really poor. Mistakes, not taking patience, a lot of losing ball in the own pitch, a lot of spaces. Madrid, I saw a couple of counter-attacks of Barca with 3 against 5. So Madrid is a disaster. It was a complete disaster. They were pressing the first line, which, by the way, Marcus Sorg said it before the game. If we, how do you say, superar in English?
Overcome.
If we overcome the first line of pressure of Madrid, we will have several chances. And that's true. When Barca was able to overcome Vinicius, Mbappe, Güler, Bellingham, it was like broken team. And Barca, of course, nothing to say. Pressing bad, not coordinating the offside, disaster. So, in terms of quality, I think it was the worst Clasico of the last 6, 7 or 8.
Yeah, let's focus on Barca. What specifically do you think they did badly, Rick? Is it one area? Is it just everything? Obviously, like Tony says, there were situations. There was one that specifically comes to mind when I think they had a 4-on-3 potentially in the second half, and Rashford miscontrolled it, turned back, and all of a sudden it was gone. I don't think there were loads of situations like that, but it did look like you say, Madrid did do some things well defensively, but in general it did look like they would have some chances. The defending, I guess, was sloppy. You can talk about the high line, but if you just make such basic errors and such poor sort of judgments and position in defence, it's irrelevant where the high line is, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of everything that we've seen bad about Barca in the last few weeks. They managed to do a little bit of all of that in this game. So it was obvious that Mbappe would get in behind and score. We knew that before the game started. That's what happens when you play the high line against Mbappe. Obviously, people might say, what about the 4-0 last season? But to be honest, it was on a 50-50 coin flip whether he did that last season or not in that 4-0 to Barca. Then there was the basic mistakes like we talked about. I mean, they weren't punished for it this time because of the offside against Mbappe. Absolute millimetric offside. And I mean, I've said before, I think the rule should be changed so that there's like a minimum amount the player is allowed to be there, because ruling that goal offside is crazy to me. It was by like a millimetre on the side of his boot. I think there should be
whatever line you have, there's going to be a millimetre.
No. Yeah, but no, totally disagree. Because if you give 10 centimetres or whatever margin it is, and then it's 10.001 centimetres, people can't complain because they've already had the 10 centimetres in the first place. It's not the same as having just 0.001 millimetre.
People will still complain because it's 0.01.
No, I don't.
Wherever the line is, people will complain. You're telling me people in Spain won't complain wherever the line is? People in Spain in the media.
Okay. Some people who are sick in the head will just complain about everything. But if over half the boot is offside, people can't really complain about it, I think, because they've already got that extra bit of leeway, that extra margin that baked into the rule. But anyway, apart from that, for example, Fermin Lopez, terrible loss of possession in that area to give away that chance. It was like against Olympiacos when the players were doing that. And then you look at other players. Lamine we have to talk about because this was his worst game for well, maybe since his like debut for Barca, more or less, going back to when he was a scared kid coming onto the pitch for the first time at Camp Nou. This was that Lamine who was afraid to try anything, and I think a lot of that's to do with his groin injury, which seems to be affecting him still. But he offered nothing. Someone like Jules Koundé, every time he got the ball, was just a sinkhole. It was like he had zero idea or zero willingness even to do anything with the ball in possession. It's not his greatest attribute, attacking stuff, but he just had nothing. I mean, I can go through all the players. I thought most of them were very poor. Frankie, for example, I said to you yesterday, Pedri had one of his worst games, but Frankie would just like wander. So Pedri would sprint back to try and defend, and then Frankie would sort of wander back for the corner that came after that. Just didn't seem to have any interest in competing in this game. I mean, I could go on, but yeah, I think that everything that we've criticised Barca for, they managed to do a bit of all of that in this one.
Yeah, I just realised in my wrap I should be sacked. I didn't mention that Pedri was, of course, sent off in stoppage time. I think it was the 10th minute of stoppage time, was it, for a second booking on Militao, so he'll be suspended against
Tchouameni
next weekend.
Yeah.
Was it on Tchouameni, was it?
Yeah.
Who did I say?
Militao.
Right, it's because Militao got booked after. Tony, where would you focus on? We obviously, when we spoke about the Clasico before, we kind of, I think all three of us expected Flick to bring Ronald Araujo into the side. I feel, because Eric Garcia, if you go on base performances over the course of the season, is one of the least Barcelona players that deserves criticism. And it's not based so much on analysis of him this season, but just a kind of a feeling that if Barca are going to be a serious team and compete in the big games, in the Champions League, a partnership of Eric Garcia and Pau Cubarsí is not the one, certainly not right now. I don't know if it could become one, but that's my opinion. I don't know what you think.
Impossible with two mummies as the centre backs. And when I say two mummies, I'm not making jokes or criticizing. Don't misunderstand me. But every team needs kind of crazy leader defender, even if technically maybe he's not the best one. So it's obvious that you cannot go with this more or less the same profile, because if we had to put different profiles of centre backs, all of us, we would put them together, Rik and Cubarsí. I remember that, for example, Guardiola was playing with Puyol, Piqué. Puyol was corrector. Mascherano, the same. So you need someone who needs to be taller, shouting, leader, like Íñigo, like other profiles. So for me, it's obvious that it's not going to be enough for me in the long term to be on the top. Yes, to compete and to have good performances and to win against Betis, all these things, yes. And for me, it's clear that, look, for example, when it comes to running behind with Mbappé, it was like he was on motorbike, and other ones were like, I know, it would have been also very complicated for Araujo to stop him. But when he entered the pitch, he had a couple of good runs in front of Mbappé, and he blocked the one shot, and then on the other one, he forced him to go to the left, and he couldn't shoot easily. So I still cannot understand why Araujo wasn't starter. I was totally convinced, 100%, that he was going to play. And I said that for aerial balls, it was going to be key. Remember how was the second goal? What would have happened with Araujo there? Because for me, it's clear there is a first cross. Balde is not jumping enough, which maybe I could understand. But then none of Rik or Cubarsí are able to win that header, and the ball falls into the foot of Bellingham. So it's true that Araujo has been a little bit underperforming. But if Barca wants to be a real candidate, the only solution that Hansi Flick has is, for me, going all in with Araujo. And despite that he will make some mistakes, trusting that he will improve in 1-2 months. And it's now the time to do it. So you have already won Olympiacos, Newcastle. So you can have now a couple of defeats. It's now the moment to make mistakes or to tell Araujo, don't do this, do that. Because when quarterfinals arrive, he needs to be ready. For me, with Rik and Cubarsí, No way. But I wouldn't put the focus on the centre backs to explain the result. Not at all. At the end, quickly is bad version. Well, not bad version, but maybe tired version of Pedri. When Pedri has to run too much, when Pedri has to make too many fouls, it's a bad symptom. Bad version of Lamine Yamal for sure. Now everybody's saying he was playing with pain, like an excuse. Then for me, bad done, because you cannot go to a Clasico with pain. Never in my life. It's kind of game that you have to play 100%. Ferran the same. He didn't seem to be at all at 100%. Rashford, it was Rashford. You both know more than me, because at the end, Rashford, you both know that he's not consistent. If Manchester United gives you for free Rashford, is because of something, not because they are crazy. So in fact, he's overperforming because you cannot complain with all what he has done. So you have to expect that he won't be a 10 every day. So it was perfectly understandable. And then Fermin, it's true that he scored the goal, but in general, for me, the most worrying situation, Rick, I don't know what you think, is that despite that you had many people injured, is that the problem is no longer a problem of, no, we are not pressing like the other year, the other season, the last season. We are not pressing that much. No, the problem is now the problem of football. I see that sometimes Barca with the ball does not know what to do. Yesterday in the second half, they had long possessions and they didn't know what to do. And this offensively and defensively, the teams have found a way of breaking you. 7 games in a row conceding goals. So for me, it's not time to... I mean, we shouldn't talk anymore like we are not pressing that high. Because saying this is not reflecting the real problem. The team is right now blocked with the ball and smashed without the ball defensively.
But so much of that comes down to Lamine Yamal, I think, because for so much of last season, he was the absolute key to Barca's attack. Okay, yeah, Rafinha had an amazing season, scored loads of goals, got loads of assists. But Lamine was the key to unlocking the defences because he has the ability to beat his man or beat 2 men, and then everything opens up and then you have the chances. This season, he hasn't been doing that. And right now, with his groin injury, he hasn't been doing that.
Okay, I accept it. But then we have a problem, no? Because then Hansi Flick is not that brilliant as we have said. Because if you are saying that the main and only reason of that great performance of the last season was Lamine Yamal, which is the role of the coach. Because...
Well, yeah. No, his role, as you've said, actually, has been quite simple. It's to free the players from having to worry too much about a lot of things.
But you as a coach, I can understand that Chelsea with Cole Palmer is not the same, or Madrid with Mbappe is not the same. I can understand it. But you still have to find ways to not to win maybe, but to compete well and to be solid without Lamine Yamal. And I don't think this is happening right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, they did win a few games without him earlier this season, but they were against Getafe, against Valencia, not against good teams. Apart from, was it Newcastle that he wasn't in the team for. I think that once Lamine gets fit, Barca will naturally improve.
Yeah, of course.
Because he will be able to just unbalance the defences like he has been doing. But, I mean, you're right. I do think that Barca were dependent on him last season. I said for the whole of last season he was the best player, despite what Pedri did, despite what Rafinha did. And ultimately, Flick did a good job in getting the players in the right mindset, refreshing everyone, making them feel like they can win, that they are a good team again after the second season of Xavi, or the last season of Xavi, and then making things simple, like you said, by not giving them too much instructions beyond press high, keep the ball, and look to attack, feed Lamine, feed Rafinha.
Yeah, no, for me the point, and I don't want to be too pessimistic, so I want to say we are analyzing the game and the current situation, but for me, of course, if you need to leave this kind of moment, and you need to be blocked, if you are blocked at any point of the season and you have several injured players, the best moment is right now. I mean, How can I tell you this? It's obvious that during the season you will have good moments and bad moments. And Barca still is on time to correct all these things, and the important part of the season starts on February and March. This is obvious. And with the injured players that will come back and Rafinha, the team will recover. For sure the team will take off. There's no doubt about this. The only thing that I can be worried a little bit is that I don't see that Barca, in terms of structure, in terms of general ideas, has made any change, any small change, any adaptation, any plan B comparing with last season. And I think I have said it before. For me, there is a point of arrogance with this DNA of Flick, like, hey, I play like this. Okay, you can be the surprise one season, but after that season, everybody studies you. And if everybody studies you, you need to change something because they are now pressing you better. They are, ¿cómo es? Ahogarse? Ahogarte?
Drowning you.
They're drowning you on the build-up. So it's obvious that you need to change something. And I don't think that Barca has made any steps. So Barcelona last year was 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. And other were 6, 6, 6. But now you still are 8, 8, 8 in terms of surprise. But now they made a couple of 2 points more. So that's why now you are struggling. So where are the solutions? Why, for example, not doing, okay, let's surprise them because now we will do a step back and we will play counter-attack? Or why we don't do one day, we change a little bit the system, the draw, and we do this and we do that? I miss these kind of solutions from Hansi Flick, to be honest, a little bit.
No, 100%. It never seemed correct that he never had another idea than the one idea that he's got. And the worst thing about it is, at the end of last season, he said, next season we have to defend better, but Barca are defending worse. That's the only change, is that Barca are now defending even worse than they were defending last season. Yeah,
exactly. Well, everybody knew that with this style, or you are perfect pressing, or it's a suicide. So you will be killed because it's a kind of competing that makes you to be 10 out of 10. And this is related with the way Barca has played in this century, with the DNA that Barca have played or were playing with Guardiola, with Xavi, taking so many risks on the build-up. It means that or you are top or you will lose because other teams, they steal you one ball, they score one goal, and then they defend all in their box, and you're not going to score. What happened with Mourinho, or what happened with other teams. For me, I insist, and I want to make it clear, because some people that can be listening us, no, but how can be possible? Yes, Hansi Flick, one of the best news that Barca has lived in the last years. Top coach, especially with dealing with players.
Mentality.
Being with the mentality, with emotional stability. All these things we need to praise. But also, it was easy to perform last season because you were coming from the nothing. And it was obvious that now it's more complicated because now you are comparing with last season and you need to improve. And you are not improving, I think. This is the way what I see.
All right, then, let's branch off into Rik's ratings from Barcelona's Clasico defeat.
Okay.
For me, it's clear the two best players for me of Barca, or the three best are clear. Let's see if we have the same opinion.
Okay, interesting. I only found one player to give a good rating to, and that for me was Wojtek Szczesny. 8.5, saved a penalty, made 4 or 5, maybe 6 saves I think mainly in the first half. Not necessarily the most taxing saves, but still decent. One from a couple from Bellingham and one from Hausen, that was good. Yeah, I think Tech had a decent game. That said, maybe Barca also play better with Joan Garcia in terms of the defence and Joan Garcia, trusting Joan Garcia more to sweep. Although Tech didn't get anything wrong, really. So, solid. And then, I found it really hard to differentiate between the rest. I gave Koundé maybe generous 4, Kubasi 4, Eric 4. Balde I gave a little bit better, 5. Pedri 4, Frenkie 4, Lamine 4. Firmin 5 with his goal. Rashford 5, maybe generous, got the assist for Firmin's goal. And Balde was involved as well. And then Ferran 4. He had a couple of okay chances for Ferran, not ones you expect to score. But what I will say, and I'm no like great defender of Robert Lewandowski, but I do think that if Robert Lewandowski's playing in those positions, get those chances, maybe Barca managed to take a draw from this.
I'm surprised that you gave a 4 to Frankie de Jong. For me, he had a quite decent game. Quite decent game despite all what happened. So I would have rated him at least with 6 or 6.5, and you gave him a 4. Maybe we saw different games, but I liked honestly what I saw from Frankie.
I thought he had very little interest in getting back to help when Pedri's like running his lungs out to chase Madrid in a defensive sense. Frankie was often stuck halfway up the pitch, just wandering back.
But Tony, you said 3 players. Who was it? Chesney, Frankie, and
yes, for me, totally agree with Rik. Chesney was the best, but I would still give more or less good marks. I said it 6.57 more or less to Frankie and Fermin. All others for me not more than 5 or 4 or 3.
Let's fast forward to the end of the match then, although we'll have to go back to last week to give some context to everything which happened around Lamine Yamal going into this fixture. He's of course never been afraid of making comments about Real Madrid or Clasico domination last season when Barca won 4 in a row after the Copa del Rey final. He said, Real Madrid can't handle us. A few days later, I think it was before the Inter Milan Champions League semi-final, in the press conference, he was asked about those comments, and he said, when they beat me, they can talk. So I think there was already a sense before that at some point his comments were, if not come back to haunt him is probably the wrong word, but were going to be used by Real Madrid players, because the law of life is eventually Real Madrid are going to win a Clasico with Lamine Yamal in a Barcelona team. But things really accelerated this last week when he appeared on Thursday night in the YouTube Twitch show for Kings League ahead of his team playing against Ibayanos' Porcinos in the Kings League, and they were shooting around. I think he was talking for about 15-20 minutes. Very, very sort of banterous sort of theme to the show. Lots of sort of, jokes and comments and sort of goading going on between Ibai, Lamine, everyone in the studio sort of encouraging them. And at one point he's asked if Porcinos, Ibai's team, who his team is playing against on the Friday, are the same as Real Madrid, are like Real Madrid, are the Real Madrid of the Kings League. And he says yes, they rob, they complain, they do things, and people sort of start... Actually, some people are still sort of encouraging him in that point. It's actually interesting. It's Gerard Romero who's the only one trying to calm the situation down, saying calmer, calmer, calmer. So they were kind of throwaway comments in a banter situation. You can see, yes, why they would be reported as they were reported, but obviously they were quickly sort of spread around the sports media here and internationally. Lamine Yamal says Real Madrid rob, etc., etc. Didn't go down well in the dressing room, we were told by sort of the Madrid media, and that did seem to be the case, because then at the end of the game, before the game at the Bernabeu, there were jeers when Lamine Yamal's name was read out, and I think, and I could be wrong, you could correct me here, it's probably the first time Lamine Yamal's been jeered at the Bernabeu. I know there was obviously the racist abuse there last year, but in general, Real Madrid fans, perhaps because of his Spain connections, have been, I would say, indifferent to him generally. There's been a kind of almost a sort of begrudging respect about his talent. Obviously, when he played there for Spain against Brazil 18 months ago, he was given a standing ovation when he came off, but this time it was very, very different. I'm not saying there might not have been, last season when Barca won 4-0 and he celebrated his goal, pockets of sort of jeers and stuff, but this time it was very different, very pointed. He was heavily jeered before the game. Every whistle was... Every touch was sort of whistled by the Real Madrid fans. Some of the biggest sort of roars and celebrations came when Alvaro Carreras either dispossessed him or when he shot over in the second half, etc. So that was sort of the theme during the game. Then at full time, Dani Carvajal made a beeline for him, making a sort of you talk too much gesture with his hand. I think it's widely accepted as. Vinicius did the same. And it developed into a melee, I guess, between both sets of players. André Lunin, the Real Madrid substitute goalkeeper, was sent off. I think there were 5 yellow cards handed out to Vinicius, Rodrigo, Militao, Ferran Torres and Balde for the sort of scuffles between the benches and the players at full time. But the theme was it had all developed from these Lamine Yamal comments. I think Frankie de Jong actually hit the nail on the head. Dani Carvajal is what, 35-year-old right back, experienced, and what Frankie de Jong says is, look, these 33 only.
Yeah, he's younger than expected. Carvalhal looks like 40, but yeah, he's 33. Yeah.
Played as right back behind Lamine Yamal in the successful Euro 2024 campaign. Is a Spain teammate, and Frenkie de Jong says, "Look, you sort these things out in private. You don't go after him on the pitch, goading an 18-year-old." And yes, some people may say, "Well, Lamine deserves it," but there are ways to do things. And I thought the way that, we probably would expect that sort of thing from Vinicius. So there's more sort of criticism for Carvajal as a captain, as an international teammate, to sort of feed into that. Especially in victory, you would expect teams to be a little bit more gracious. And I guess you could argue Lamine's not been gracious with his comments post Clasico wins last year. But I think from comments, and they could have done it in comments, like Jude Bellingham's "talk is cheap" was it he put on Instagram, stuff like that. Yeah, put stuff like that to fight back. But to go after someone on the pitch and to cause a melee felt a little bit exaggerated, like Frenkie de Jong did. One thing I didn't agree with Frenkie de Jong on is he said that I do agree that perhaps it's been exaggerated and taken out of context what Lamine said, but Lamine said what he said. Frenkie basically said, I don't think Lamine said that they've robbed, but it's quite clear that he says they've robbed.
Yeah,
I guess you could say, well, he's talking about Pusinos, but I think the interpretation is quite clear. Rick, how did you experience all that at the time? Did you see it kicking off in the Bernabeu?
Yeah, I don't really care about these pushing and shoving stuff. It's just a bit of pushing and shoving. It happens in like Everton against Aston Villa. No one punched anyone. No one got hurt. It was all just a bit stupid, really. And I have a lot of thoughts on the whole thing. One of the things you were talking about is why previously Lamine's not really been the focus, the singular focus of the hate of the Bernabeu. And I think part of that is because before he was a child and now he's 18. I'm not saying people are thinking that in their heads, like, oh, he's 18 now, we can have a go at him. I just think that the perception of him has changed a bit with, when he was playing at Spain at the Euros, it was going to be his birthday and he was doing his exams and all that sort of stuff, and he's just looked like a child, and he was a child. Now he looks less like a child, and he is not a child. And there's been a sort of a string of things in the media, like his birthday party with the dwarves incident, and then obviously his relationships become a big sort of, it's all over the media and stuff like that, and then these comments. And I think slowly that Lamine has become an adult, and he's no longer seen as like, oh, it's wonder kid. He's now just seen as like a Barca player, I think, by these Madrid fans, even though they do support him when he plays for Spain. So I think that has an impact. I don't really think that his performance necessarily, even though Sorg said that maybe the atmosphere did get to him, which actually I thought was a stupid thing to say, because the day before he said, oh, Lamine loves the pressure, he loves these environments, he thrives on that pressure. And then he's like, oh yeah, maybe the pressure got to him. So he's sort of contradicted himself there. But I think it was mainly the groin thing. I don't think Lamine, because of the jeers or the boos or the whistles, was thinking he was unable to take on a player. I think that's two things. One thing is his groin. He thought, oh, maybe I won't be able to beat this guy. And the other thing is the way Madrid was setting up was to have 2-on-1, to always have someone behind Carreras or someone available to help. And I think Lamine knew that because of his fitness state, even if he did beat the first guy, he wouldn't be able to then beat the second guy. So I think that had an impact. And then one other thing I'll say in his favour, more or less, is that why are Madrid so rattled by these comments that they steal and that they complain? And the truth is because the comments have some basis in reality, I think. We know Madrid and the referees. We know how much they complain on Real Madrid TV. The things that Real Madrid say on Real Madrid TV every week are far worse than anything Lamine Yamal said as a joke on this YouTube stream. And what final thing from me is I thought also Tchouameni's comments were great. I thought he spoke really well about it. He said, when I was little, I remember that when these Barca and Madrid players had these little exchanges, and we liked it. Like, people like this sort of thing, the banter before the games. They're just words and there is no bad intention. It motivates us more, but if Lamine wants to talk, he can do so. So I think Madrid, between themselves, between Bellingham, between Carvajal, between Vinicius, between Tchouameni, have different opinions about what Lamine Yamal said. Yeah,
there are a lot of strands. There are a lot of strands to this. I think I'm in line with Tchouameni. We love it. We love this sort of banter, this sort of warming up of the environment. I think the only possible comment where Lamine Yamal slightly overstepped the mark is the Rob comment, because that's different from complaining. And you can say it's right or wrong. I think that's the one that you can see why that would perhaps be seen as overstepping the mark, from going, they can't handle me, they can't handle us, they can talk when we beat me, etc., to perhaps sort of winding them up a little bit more. The other issue is just the whole thing around Lamine and whether people have his best interests at heart. even sort of Gerard Piqué encouraging that sort of environment and stuff. Who's advising him? Who's letting him do this stuff? Like I said, it probably would have gone on for more if it wasn't for Gerard Romero on the Kings League channel stepping in and saying calma, because he could see where that was going. As soon as he said the Rob comment, Gerard Romero could see where that was going. He could literally envisage what was going to happen over the next 3 or 4 days. So there's so many strands. There's probably like a whole episode on Lamine, how he's advised. Like I say, I would encourage most of the things that he says. As journalists, we like it. As fans, we like it. That should be part of the Clasico fixture. The back and forth between the players. Perhaps he overstepped the mark with the Rob comments, but then Carvajal and Vinicius take it to another level by goading him and going after him on the pitch with actual actions.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine by me, that too, goading him or whatever, but I just don't understand why they're so upset by it. I do understand, but I think that's because it reveals something.
No, not only this. First of all, I'm happy that these things happen because lately it was always said that that the players are now doing interviews not with journalists because you journalists ask shit. So I'm happy that these troubles happen with players attending informal interviews where they they feel like more free and more relaxed. Patapam. Okay, so first of all, I'm happy for this. It can also be a mistake and it can also be a danger. But second thing, I'm not going to be focused on Carvajal, who is a clown, a stupid clown, because, no, to be honest.
No, I agree. I hate Carvajal.
No, but I don't hate him. It's just that I feel pity for this under human, because what Frankie said is totally right. If you are the captain and you have the telephone of Lamine Yamal, you can call him. You don't need to do this in front of the people to say, yeah, he's my captain, because we all know that he's finished, and with Alexander-Arnold, he's not going to play. So, well, apart from this clown of Carvajal, I want to be focused on Lamine Yamal. And first of all, Lamine Yamal needs to learn that being, ¿cómo se dice? Picarse, but when you do it more or less with friends, not seriously. Picarse. Bantering with your friends in Rocafonda, playing, it's fine, but this is not with your friends. This is, all what you do has an impact of 20,000 million times more. First of all, you need to know that you are coming from an injury. And if you know that you are not 100%, why just before the Clasico saying this? Because I'm sure that Lamine caused a damage to the dressing room of Barca, because Madrid players got even more motivated after his words. You need to be, you need to know when to speak. If you have been injured, if you have been criticized, why going there and saying this? No, because you think that you are the best. You are only 18. And life is not all la vie en rose that people say in French, the life of in pink. And he needs to learn. For me, it was a lesson. It was totally a lesson, because even if he didn't seem 100%, also emotionally, he felt scared. I saw him scared. I didn't see a brave version of Lamine Yamal. So, for me, I'm very angry with him. I'm very angry because then also saying to Carvajal, and to Rudiger and to Militao, let's meet in the dressing room. What does it mean? I didn't see Messi on his career doing this. You are the number 10 of Barca. What are you doing? I'm very disappointed, and he's not guilty for that. He is not guilty for that, but those that have allowed him doing what he wants in the last 2 years.
I also think every player in the Madrid dressing room, apart from Brahim Diaz and Fran Garcia, would destroy Lamine Yamal in a fight.
Yeah, exactly. Apart also this, no, but seriously, so I'm very, very, very disappointed. And one last thing. If you want to be this kind of player, like, okay, football is only a game, I don't feel pressure, let's punch them, like making jokes, I am totally in favor of this. Don't misunderstand me. I am totally in favor of this. Totally in favor. Because at the end, this is what gives football something special. I love if Bellingham goes to the social media and releases a post saying speaking is cheap and blah blah blah. I love it. This is a game. Let's do it with passion, like Balotelli, like Ibrahimovic. I love it. But to enter this game, To enter this game, you have to be a specialist of the trash talking like Mourinho was. Don't go into gardens that you are not sure if you're going to be the best. For example, Piqué was the best one. Piqué was getting horny with criticism. He was going to Bernabeu and he was 3 times bigger and performing as a iced blood man. But I'm not sure this is the case of Lamine. And the more hate you generate, the more pressure you have. And 80,000 people booing you, maybe it's going to affect you. So, to enter these kind of games that Piqué used to play with his pictures and comments, you have to be as good as Piqué was in terms of supporting the pressure, holding the pressure, and having the maturity that Piqué had. So, I think that Lamine needs to think a little bit.
I think that's a good way to look at it in the sense of a lesson. That's the way I wrote about it after the game, was Lamine, the lessons Lamine can learn from this. And one of them is that, like now he knows what it's like to have the whole stadium on his back. And he can decide in the future whether that's something he wants again or not. Whether he is someone who thinks, and actually next time when I'm fit, I am going to be able to thrive on it or not.
Yeah, it's not smart to do this. He's becoming a small Vinicius. When was Messi booed that way? Messi was the most intelligent guy. Not saying nothing, not provoking. Also seemed disconnected from the game sometimes. And then with the ball, bam!
But I think obviously it's early. But I think I'm going to enjoy Lamine off the pitch more than you can enjoy Messi off the pitch. Messi, keeps himself to himself. I like Lamine's chispa, like his banterous comments and so on.
But we are here to enjoy them in the pitch, not off the pitch. If you want off the pitch, I went Friday evening to Impro Show in Gracia, which you know perfectly. Really good time, and then I had a burger. What means off the pitch? What matters is in the pitch. I don't give a fuck what happens off the pitch. When we talk about football players, is where he needs to perform in the pitch.
Yeah, that's true. But I also think, and in two minds about it, I half agree with you in the sense of he said these comments when he wasn't fully fit and at the risk of then having egg on his face after the game, which he did. And that's bad. But the only thing I agree with is that that is who he is, and he's faithful to it, even if it blew up in his face, which is there's some honor in that too, even if it went badly.
Okay, so you don't see a problem for young kids that he was sending a meeting request to Madrid players in the dressing room like a gangster. This for you? There's nothing wrong with this.
No, it's a bit stupid. But I mean,
we cannot. We have to stop saying he's only a kid of 18. Because if he's only a kid of 18, then pay him only as a kid of 18. But he gets the money of 18. He gets the media noise of a superstar. Everything goes of a superstar. So if you get the treatment of superstar in all the senses, let's be demanding also as a superstar. Not let's be demanding as a young kid. So let's be coherent.
That's another lesson for him to learn from this game, that he now gets to decide going forward. He's seen what can happen when he loses the Clasico, when he is attacked by the Madrid fans, when he's caused all this sort of furore around the game. He gets to decide whether that's something that he carries on with or he doesn't, and we'll see if he learns. Because my other colleague Raul was saying to me, that someone needs to have a word with him, they need to talk to Lamine, stop all this. And I said, well, let him, you growing up, he can decide for himself what happens next. He's seen what the impact is. And we'll learn something about Lamine too when we see how he carries himself for the next few weeks, few months this season.
Can we rewind that? Because I'm sure Tony said he went to a rival improv show and not to Rik's improv show.
In Spanish.
I went to the one in Gracia. Yes.
Rik, when's your next show?
No, well, I think my group's doing a show on next Saturday, but I'm not going to be in it because I have to work on. I miss a lot of our shows because I'm. Always working on football. They're always on Saturday night, so it's pretty rare there's no Barca or Madrid on a Saturday night. So.
But the one you do is in English, right?
Yeah, in English. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd love to take Tony to your next show.
Yeah, we have to go one day. Yes, we have to go one day. Yes.
Yeah. Just to finish on Lamine, one of the funnier questions, Rik, over the weekend perhaps was, how's this going to affect the Spain national team?
This is another chapter, I think.
I'll tell you, that's actually not a question for us. You know who that's a question for? Dean Howson.
Dean Howson. Why?
He's the only Real Madrid player in the Spain national team.
Not Carvajal, is he not in the going to be back?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm feeding off Tony's. He's finished line, but yeah, he probably will make his way back into the Spain team, won't he? Which will be interesting.
I disagree. I think Carvajal's going to be important for Madrid and for Spain within the next year. Have a chat about it on day one and then get on with it.
So we've got time for today. We'll be back on Patreon for subscribers later this week. Barca not in action until Sunday, of course, when they host Elche, presumably. Well, yeah, because I've seen tickets are on sale at the Olympic Stadium. I think that's a given. In the meantime, stay positive.